Was it? Congressman Lee Zeldin joins us of New York. He's the only Jewish member of Congress, Republican. He just returned from Afghanistan a few days ago. Congressman, good to see you.
Good to be back
and
with
welcome. Do you think this was, personally motivated somewhat, or basically done on the merits in terms of policy that the Obama administration does not agree with the continued building of settlements, which has been U.S. policy for years?
I think timing is no coincidence. There's a reason why the president hasn't done this until he's literally just a couple weeks from leaving. I don't think that if Hillary Clinton had won the presidency that President Obama on his way out would have unilaterally done this without, as part of a transition, working with the incoming president. So he's well aware of competing philosophies. Too much now of the Democratic Party actually exists of anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian sentiment. So unfortunately, President-elect Trump on his way in, and President Obama thought that this is the right thing to do for many reasons, including boxing in the next president.
And what should we do about the UN? There are calls to retaliate against the world body. But I mean, look, as I've mentioned before, it's the Security Council. You have 15 members. It's the policies of the individual nations. Why should the UN, which does actually terrific things in the humanitarian area, why should they be punished in terms of their budget being cut, in terms of, Sarah Palin is even calling on the president-elect to pull the U.S. out of the UN?
Well, it certainly should be noted just how much funding the United States provides to the United Nations. I mean, we provide almost a quarter of all the funding that they get. We don't even know the total amount of all the money that the United States sends their way because it's that complex. FDR, when he was giving a State of the Union address 74 years ago, he says, we must be particularly vigilant against racial discrimination in any of its ugly forms. Speaking about the need for a United Nations, and if we're trying to figure out what that racial discrimination was, the next word of that State of the Union address was Hitler. And as we've seen over the course of the decades the United Nations have been in existence, it's starting to turn into a form that is exactly what the United Nations was formed to fight against. And this was an anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian sentiment that resolution that essentially was trying to ethnically cleanse East Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria. So that's the reason why these arguments are gaining so much steam, is that the United Nations is turning into a body that is pushing the type of sentiment that it supposedly was created to eliminate.
But others would say that this resolution was needed, that Israel is in the wrong, it violates international law, and by having these settlements continue to be built, you are inciting, they are inciting, and causing what potentially could be more violence and reaction, and that the Palestinians have rights to that land too.
Well, first off, it should be noted just how many times there has been opportunities for the Palestinians to have their own state, and it is the Palestinians that have chosen time and again to vote against it. It is the Palestinians inciting violence, terrorizing, murdering innocent Israelis, and in one case, in multiple cases, but one case, Taylor Force, United States Military Academy graduate, U.S. service member killed. The Palestinian Authority financially rewards terrorist families for these crimes that are taking place. Israel has shown a commitment, a willingness to give large swaths of land, whether it's East Jerusalem, parts of Judea and Samaria, so that the Palestinians can have their own state. So while these settlements are being created, it has been on the table, part of the negotiations. The Israelis are willing to compromise. When I was in Ramallah in 2015, I met with the Prime Minister of the Palestinian Authority, Hamdallah. He said in no uncertain terms, it is non-negotiable. They will not recognize Israel as a Jewish state. So if the Israelis are willing right now to negotiate long-term peace, but you don't have a willing partner on the other end of the table.
But they did recognize Israel as part of Oslo in 1993. Do you think there's any possibility that Israel could take the Jewish state aspect off the table, or is that implacable in what remains?
I don't believe that they should. I think it only plays into that pro-Palestinian sentiment that's out there. I mean, if the Palestinian Authority had an election right now, Hamas would win the election. So that sentiment of people who will not rest unless Israel's wiped off the map. I mean, Israel can't compromise its entire existence to have long-term peace. That's non-negotiable.
Congressman Lee Zeldin, thank you. And you just won another term, so congratulations on that, and we'll be looking forward to see what happens in the new term.
Thanks, sir.
Of course. Patty Ann?
Well,